Hello everyone, Johnny Hurricane here from GamersHeroes.com, and why don't you sit back, relax, and let me tell you about Cadence of Hyrule. Cadence of Hyrule mixes Crypt the Necrodancer and Zelda into a unique rhythm-based roguelike that takes place in Hyrule. When you first boot the game up, you will be playing as Cadence, a young woman who is trapped in Hyrule and is not really sure why she is here. After a very brief tutorial, like 5-10 minutes tops, you then get to choose between Zelda or Link. Whoever you choose now, you can switch to the other one later, but you need to make the decision now. Link is easier in my opinion. He can hold his shield up and move at the same time. Zelda, however, can shoot her magic fireball and manually control it, but her defense is a little bit more tricky because she can't just hold her shield. Personally, if you're worried about the difficulty, I would just choose Link first. Don't worry, you unlock Zelda in like an hour, so it's all good. After you pick your character, you are tossed into this game's version of Hyrule and you are tasked with clearing 4 dungeons. After you clear out those dungeons, you will regain access to Hyrule Castle, and then you can beat the big bad guy. Now this is easier said than done. This is a roguelike, and those of you who don't know what a roguelike is, well, you can expect to die a lot. I would say probably the first 1 or 2 hours you will be dying. The reason you're going to be dying so much is because it is a rhythm-based game, so you need to get the rhythm down before you can actually be good at it. And on top of that, you need to start memorizing the enemy patterns, like which way they move, so you can then move out of their way or position yourself in a spot that you can attack them. And of course, like many other roguelikes, when you die, you do lose certain items, such as rupees. Now I understand that this sounds overwhelming, but it's actually not that bad. Once you figure out what you're doing, my suggestion, they even say this in game, use the D-pad. It helps a lot. And all you gotta do, don't try and focus on the whole song, just focus on the beat. A lot of 1, 2, 1, 2. And then once you figure out the beat, it's pretty consistent throughout the entire game. If you're really struggling with the movement and the attacking, you can turn the rhythm stuff off and you can just move freely. I tried that and I didn't like it nearly as much, but it is an option for those of you that are thinking this might be a bit too much for you. Alright, so now that we know that it is a rhythm-based game, let's get into how it actually works. Movement is based on the rhythm, and you move from square to square. Now the enemies have to follow this pattern as well. They can only go square to square. Some of them can jump certain squares and move diagonally and stuff like that. But for the most part, they have to follow the rules of the rhythm as well. So movement is square by square, and attacking also follows this rule. As you get close enough to hit an enemy, whoever you're playing will automatically attack with whatever weapon it is. If you have a weapon with more range, it'll go further. If you have a short sword, you have to get closer. Just basic stuff. And while the enemies are pretty simple at first and you can just kind of run into them and beat them and push them back, the enemies do get much more challenging later. They will start having armor and shields and a lot more HP. So learning their patterns and getting down the rhythm early is very helpful. All of the enemies are based on previous Zelda entries, so you'll run into enemies such as the Poes, Lynels, the Choo Choo Jellies, the Knights from A Link to the Past, just to name a few. While your main task is to clear all these dungeons, you're playing a Zelda game in Hyrule. You are encouraged, highly encouraged to explore. Kakariko Village and Gerudo Village are both waiting with mini-games for you to play, such as Bombchu Bowling. The Lost Woods lures in wayward travelers, only to spit them right back out in another direction. Unless, of course, you are lucky enough to find your way through or find someone else who knows their way through. Cracked walls are just waiting for you to plant a bomb outside of them so you can reveal their secrets, sometimes finding new merchants or mini dungeons inside. Certain bushes have stairs underneath them, leading below the earth to treasures and other random enemies and challenges and puzzles that you have to solve. The fortune teller makes another appearance as well, so anyone that's lost can go turn the rupees into her and she'll point you in the right direction. And on top of all that, the great fairies are just waiting for heroes to find them so they can heal weary travelers and provide you with extra buffs to your weapons, provided of course you have enough money. Speaking of money, there's actually two types of currencies in this game. One, of course, is the rupees, as we mentioned earlier, and there are also diamonds. Let's go over the rupees first, because they're pretty basic. And like any other Zelda game, you find rupees in bushes, pots, chests, killing enemies. You know how to get them. You know what you're doing by now. However, as mentioned earlier, when you die, you do lose all of these rupees. There is no bank man like in Majora's Mask. They're just gone. The rupees can be used to buy certain equipment items like bottles and a snorkel, a lot of items like bombs, arrows, potions, and anything that is a consumable really will be based upon rupees as well. Diamonds are the second currency, and no matter how many times you die, you're not going to lose those. These are mostly gained from clearing a whole room of all of its enemies. They can be found in certain chests and occasionally in barrels, but mostly it's from killing all the enemies on screen. Diamonds are spent on more permanent upgrades such as new weapons and heart pieces generally, and when you die you can use them to bring in items that are consumable such as an extra torch or a ring or some boots, things like that. The economy is actually one of the things I would knock about the game because as you progress, you just get so good that you don't die anymore. And if you do, it's just so rare that you stack so many rupees. It's not uncommon to have 500 or 600 rupees and just nothing you really need to buy. And the same can be said about diamonds. I think by the time I beat the game, I had over 100, and I was spending them because I just wanted to spend them at that point because there was nothing really I needed. It's something minor and it didn't affect the game that much, but I would have preferred more items to buy, more chances to spend my diamonds. One of the things you can buy with your diamonds is new weapons. And new weapons do not actually disappear after you buy them. They're in your inventory for good. They're one of the items that you keep no matter how many times you die, except glass weapons. Those break as soon as you get hit. There's nothing you can do about that. There's a few different types of weapons: spears, short swords, long swords, broadswords, flails, and Cadence can use her shovel, daggers as well. But not every character can use every weapon. So while Link and Cadence can use shields, Zelda cannot use shields, but Link can't use daggers. And you can imbue some of these weapons with extra effects as well, such as bonus damage, poison damage, and lifesteal, just to name a few. And the different weapons have different effects. For instance, a spear has more range, so it goes over 2 squares instead of 1. But the broadsword can swipe 3 targets in front of it, making it an AoE weapon. So it is nice to have all those extra options because you never really know what weapon you're going to fall in love with until you try it. I will say though, there's no hammer, and that's kinda, I wish there was a hammer. Before I get into the music, I do want to talk about the difficulty in the game because as I said, it starts hard and then gets easy. It gets too easy is the problem. I am an explorer when it comes to video games, so I like to check all the nooks and crannies and all that and get all the items and all the weapons before I do dungeons. And that's exactly what I did. So then I walked into the dungeons and I just smoked them. I had no challenge at all. I don't even think I healed in between all 4 dungeons. I just went in there, attacked everything, and beat all the bosses fairly quickly because my weapon was so upgraded that I was doing like 3 damage a hit. And I'm not trying to trash on the dungeons. The dungeons are great. I had a good time with them. But if you want to get a challenge out of them, go in there before you have 8 hearts and a fully upgraded spear. So now we're going to talk about the music real quick because these are all remixes and I'm an old school Zelda fan. I'm sure there's plenty of you that are old school Zelda fans as well. And the music has a special place in our hearts. And I'll start by saying that, yeah, they're good. They're great. Spot on. Good job, guys. These guys did a wonderful job with the soundtrack. I'm just going to kind of go over when it hit me that like, oh, this is going to work good. I started as Link. And I was moving around, I was getting used to the rhythm, so I heard the music and I was like, yeah, I was getting into it. It was the Hyrule theme, the Hyrule field theme from, I think it was Ocarina of Time. And I was like, cool. And then it just jumped. There was this moment, it was perfect timing. I was on the beach and it switched to the Great Sea from Wind Waker, their version of the Great Sea from the Wind Waker. And I was just like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. So they're not only remixing the songs, but they're also putting some of the same songs onto the same track and remixing them that way. And it turns out that is a great idea. It worked very, very well. And the reason I talk about that one specifically is because it's the feeling it gave me. And this is the feeling you want to get when you hear an overworld theme like this. is like, okay, it's time for me to go start exploring. And that's what it hit. And that's what this music is capable of doing. It's making you feel things that other games really just can't pull off. And the guys that did this Cadence of Hyrule game, they knocked it out of the park with the music. And a special shout out to the Windmill Hut music, basically the Song of Storms. That one's good. I really like it. I don't know if it's jazz or what it is, but I love it. Obviously, you know, they're playing on our nostalgia here, but it works, and it works well. If you're a Zelda fan, I don't know why you haven't picked it up already. You should absolutely pick it up. If you're a fan of great music, fun gameplay, action RPGs, or Tingle, then yeah, you should pick this up as well. This is one of those games you can pick up, and even if you get blown out for like 4 hours, you're still going to have a good time. Alright, that will do it for me. If you liked what you saw, got what you needed, let me know what you think about the game in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Later, Gators.